So I don't have the files locally, and I can't get Spotify to work.
Okay. In which case, I'll get the files up locally then.
These are all the great things you'd expect from your sound engineer, aren't they?
Okay.
Welcome to the Teacups Listening Club.
Well, there it is, right there. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I am here with the Teacups again for the second of these pre-new album listen along to old album events. It's a snappy title, isn't it? Maybe I need to work on that. Actually, I don't think I've nailed what we're calling it. It's fine. We'll edit that bit out. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully you saw the one for the pot one last week, and this week we are going to be looking at the second album, which is this one here, which is Of Labour and Love, the Teacup second album with beautiful artwork by the wonderful Katie Coop. So yeah, I guess last time I didn't say who I am. I'm Pete Ord. I have been working with the band for 7 years now. This is the first album that I produced with the guys, released in 2015.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
So I thought maybe I'd just start by maybe I just introduce how I ended up being involved. So I think we met at Folk Weekend Oxford in 2013, which was in the April, which is a nice little coincidence given that the launch gig next week for the new album is also run by Folk Weekend Oxford. So a nice little link in there. And I remember seeing you. I was sound engineering there at the festival, and I remember really enjoying your set. And I started the label Haystack Records. I think we've been going a couple of years, and I'd just put out Gavin Davenport's record at the beginning of the year, and I was looking for new stuff to do. I was looking for new acts that I thought were really good, and I knew Al a little bit already. And I saw you guys, and I thought, oh, these guys are brilliant. I bet they'd make a great record. I'm going to get in there straight away. I know they've not been around very long. I'm going to see if they want to make an album with me. And then I asked you about it, and you're like, yeah, we've literally just made one, and we're doing a launch event in a few weeks' time. So I was quite disappointed about that. I'll be honest. At the time, it was definitely too slow. And I remember thinking, oh, I've missed it. I'm always one step behind.
Always the bridesmaid.
Exactly. But we got chatting anyway, and I remember we just had a really nice time. And I saw you then at the one for the pot launch event at Shepley, and I think it was around then that we said, well, because you didn't have a commercial release plan for the first album, did you, at all? You just kind of had it. So I took on doing that. And then I think we were pretty quick into working on this second album, as I remember it after that. I think the first album came out in the September 2013, and it must have been early 2014 when we started working on this record, because you guys came down to my flat in London, and I moved out of that flat in the middle of 2014. So, and we demoed a load of stuff, didn't we, for it? I think.
And I think because by the time we recorded the first album, because we had, we'd been in our first couple of years of uni, and we had loads of time and space and enthusiasm to kind of get together and rehearse and stuff. We built up a lot of material quite quickly. So by the time One for the Pot came out, we were almost ready to, we almost had enough good stuff for the second one anyway, which has been a lot harder with the third one, because obviously I haven't finished uni and got other jobs and other commitments and so on, and an ocean in between some of us as well. That whole process has just been much slower. So it was nice to come out of one and go, right, next one.
I don't remember much about that demoing process at your flat, but I do remember it was around the time you adopted a random cat that appeared at your house.
I was going to say, I remember a nice cat.
Yeah, and I also remember the arriving and you displaying this huge cupboard of tea that you'd got ready for us because you'd arrived.
And I remember you, Alex, when we were doing a quick demo for the rapper set, rather than putting rapper shoes on your feet and sort of doing some stepping, putting them on your hands and just going bang, 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 bang. Yeah, and I don't know why one of us just didn't step, because
that was very funny.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
we had several rapper dancers at the time.
Yeah. I think what's interesting straight off the bat with that is that we probably spent as long demoing this album before we'd even recorded any of it as you did recording the entirety of the first one.
Yeah,
probably.
Almost.
I'm very proud of the first album, but it came about very quickly.
It was fast.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I think the first album was great, and there was never any kind of, I think you could do something loads better. There was never that kind of vibe about it. But I think this album fell at an interesting time because it also kind of came with those quite big life changes of no longer being a student band anymore. And I remember when we were talking about it, I personally was quite keen to kind of to make that quite clear in the album, I think, and in the PR and all of those kinds of things. I think when you look at that first record, even just reading the liner notes, there's a clear youthful enthusiasm and a very much isn't it so amazing that we've gone to do this amazing folk degree and we've met all these people and then we had to arrange this one in that class and we had to arrange that one in this class, and wasn't it also exciting? Which there's nothing wrong with at all. But I was just really keen to try and depart from that in some ways and go, okay, here's like a definite level up. It's not just a university band that we did this thing while we had the lessons. This is like something for the long haul, and make something that kind of sounded like that too, I think.
Totally. It's interesting as well, because I remember when we started doing the demoing process, I was like, ooh, this is very proper. This is like a proper thing that proper bands do, you know? Which is quite funny.
I don't really even remember what that demoing process entailed now. It's a funny one for me because as a producer, I like to get, my ideal scenario is to get involved quite early on with an act if I can. But I think the difficult thing from my perspective with you guys is with like an a cappella group, you've very much got your thing. Like there's 4 voices, that's what you do. And like without waltzing in and rewriting your arrangements, which is nothing I'd never do that. Like if I work with a solo artist, for example, there's lots of extra kind of production time that, you know, I can have ideas that doesn't matter that they might not normally do it as part of the live thing. It can become part of the album. And that's quite hard with a 4-piece singing group. And I think actually we did do it a little bit. But I think what's interesting when we come on to doing the third album compared to this one is I think this album has some of my equivalents of your As I Roved Out things, which is I think I was just a bit excited about ideas of stuff you could do with a harmony singing group that wasn't adding instruments, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Little moments of showing off.
Little moments of showing off, exactly.
Talking of showing off, can we start the playback? Because this is one of my the first track on this album is like one of my favourites that we've arranged, because there's so many little elements to it which are like, ooh.
Yes,
I think you're right. I think enough chitter chatter.
Indeed.
Don't actually say exactly what I meant.
In which case, we will kick things off with track 1, The Bell
You may need to
Ringing.
say that a few times through, Al, because I think I'm probably going to get a bit excited about, and I remember that we did this in the mixing and no one else is going to give a shit about
You're
it.
going to see at the beginning of this, it's going to be like I just did, nice sort of like segue, just try and do my radio DJ thing. By sort of like near the end, I was like, Pete, can we just play the track, please?
Just shut up now.
Sorry, Will,
Mute.
what was that you said?
One morning in October, neither drunken nor sober, down Broadberry down I was wending my way, when I heard of some ringing, some dancing and singing. I'll always remember that Jubilee Day. 'Twas in Ashwater town, the bells they did sound. They rang for a belt and a hat laced with gold. But the men of Northloo rang so steady and true that there never were better in Devon, I hold. 'Twas misunderstood of the men of Broadwood rang a peal.
I always thought it was a really nice way to start the album, to have one person come in and then the next person and the next person in unison, just to have that, you know, kind of introductory kind of verse. It was really nice.
'Twas in Ashwater town.
I also feel it is overcompensation from what we were talking about last time with me leading absolutely no songs on the first album, and now me opening the entire album by myself.
So steady and true that there never were better in Devon, I hold. Those abroad would be naughty, they said to our party, we'll ring you a challenge again.
Now, one thing I do remember was Pete getting very frustrated with me in the recording of this song, because it's a West Country song and I have a very strong West Country accent sometimes. And the word party seems to I remember that really well, as Pete going, just sound less West Country, Alex.
I also remember it took us, when we were arranging this one, took us a really long time to really nail that staggered Ord effect with Kate, Rosie, and myself. Da 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 da.
I love that bell ringing staggered chord thing that you did. I think it's so beautiful. And I remember when...
Did it really take ages? My recollection is that we just sort of decided what it was going to be. And did it really take that long?
I remember it taking a while.
I've totally forgotten that.
Rose-tinted glasses, Kate.
I don't know what you're complaining about. It's easy.
I really wanted to reflect that in the mix as well, and trying to make it feel like it was the kind of chimes happening at various points as it came in.
Those abroad would once more were obliged to give o'er. They were beaten completely again in the round. And the men of North Lou rang so steady and true, no better than
It's this bit that's really mint. This bit coming up into the chorus. I like this bit.
'Twas in Ashwater town, then in Carlington town, the bells they did sound, they rang for a belt and a
Lovely little moment of me soaring over the top there.
Well, I think it's because the only bit I could do was right on the bottom for some reason, so I'm the lowest one in that one for some unknown reason that I've totally forgotten.
It's a note I wanted to do. It's a note I wanted to do the whole way through, but it didn't work the whole way through. We could only fit it in at the end. At least it got in there.
Steady and true that there never were better in Devon, I hold.
Nice.
Good opener.
It is.
It really is. I was just thinking that. I love that track.
It's what I quite like about it. It's already, you can kind of see how we've grown from the first album, and it's similar in the idea of As I Roved Out on the first album, where it's got lots of ideas thrown in, but we took a lot of the ideas back out again, and there it was.
Yeah.
There was this really nice piece. And I thought it was also like a fairly brave move, because the first album was way more in the kind of traditional SATB kind of arrangement, really. And so that, starting with that track, was already sort of like throwing that idea of a traditional choir set up out the window. And I think that's kind of set us up for all our arrangements since the second album.
I think you can definitely hear that on this album, that step up in arrangements from filling out harmony to the existing melody and words to actually stepping into kind of writing accompaniments to a lead as well. I think I think you can hear that across this whole album.
We have a very good friend who is much more musically clever than us, and he made a lovely comment to Rosie once about you're really good at writing soprano parts that sound nothing like soprano parts.
And there is the moment of winning. There.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very melodically minded when it comes to writing harmonies, so I just kind of write another tune most of the time.
The nice thing about that track also, I feel like, as an opener, is pretty much all the other tracks from the first album have some sort of tie to university, and that one was like we learned that on tour. We heard someone singing at a Bude Folk Festival down in Cornwall, and that was, so it was like a really nice way to go, like, this is something from the outside world, from us existing as a band. We heard this song as a band and went, this is a song we need to do,
Totally.
There's that nice bit to it as well. Yeah,
absolutely. What's next?
Right, well,
My Son John, which I think is the first thing we did. I have a feeling it was.
Right.
It might be. I mean, it's the one that My Son John is always the one we soundcheck with because it has all these elements that are very sort of standard blocky song, and it has us all singing higher parts and lower parts in unison and not unison.
Yeah.
So it could have been
very useful.
I think that's why we started with it. I think I remember that it took us a bit of time. Well, it took me a bit of time for definite to find a method that I thought was working best when we recorded this, because we did start off with in various different ways. We did start off with all of you in one room and just going at it like that, and or two of you at a time, and it did take us a while to kind of to find what we thought was working. And I have a feeling this might be one of the ones that we did in pairs, if not all of you at the same time. I can't remember.
Is that when we did it? Was it when we had the sort of boothie bits set up in the recording room, and there were two of you in there, but with like duvets over your head and stuff?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is that? Okay. My memories of doing it are really sketchy. It's really weird. I can't remember as much as I think.
Repression, Kate.
You know, when I actually try to think about it, it's weird.
Yeah, totally.
Worrying, Will.
Well, this is My Son John.
My son John was tall and slim, and he had a leg for every limb.
Right off the bat, it's a really big sound. I really like it.
I was just thinking that. I forgot how full it is.
Like Alex's bass is like, woo.
Were you deaf or were you blind when you left your two fine legs behind? Or was it sailing on the sea with your two fine legs right down to your knee? Roo-dum-da, father riddle-da, whack for me riddle with me roo-dum-da. I was not deaf, I was not blind when I left my two fine legs.
There was a moment that I think was relevant from last time we were talking about this album particularly and onwards. We didn't have that fear of having the same note for like one word, and this is really relevant in this song. I think it works really nicely.
For I was tall and I was slim, and I had a leg for every limb. Oh, but now I've got no legs at all. They were both shot away by the cannonball. Roo-dum-da, father riddle-da, whack for me riddle with me roo-dum-da. Father riddle-da, whack for me riddle with me roo-dum-da. For I was tall and I was slim.
I've really got a soft spot for that ending as well.
I love that end chord.
I love that ending.
And like,
It's a goodie.
Another thing I really like about that one is the mother's attitude. Like, you come home with no legs and she's like, pay attention, 007. You know, what did you do? You know, were you just not looking the right way? You know, did you not see the cannonball? You know, funny
It's
the way
a really nice kind of study in different. Just in the first two tracks, you've got such a range between the really like light and bouncy kind of track one. The bell ringing is really kind of like joyful and kind of light and fluffy, all in very positive ways. And then the second one is suddenly this kind of, you know, rich fudgy chocolate cake. And thus we open the door to all of our food metaphors.
But I think that track really highlights what a difference having Pete on board with the album made as well, because the EQing and other studio magic that you've done on that really makes it sound mint. Like, I'm not like, because obviously I understand what my voice sounds like, and I know that the part I was singing is not outrageously bassy, but the way you've managed to make it all sound so warm and fat, and yeah, it's really cool. Tell us more, Pete.
I must admit, I don't really remember how I did it.
Nice to know you've done your homework.
Came to me in a dream.
Can we change our mind on host? Can we?
Well, I think the techniques are different across the whole album. I don't think there was like. This is another thing that's quite different to the album that we've just done, which I'll come on to a bit then. But with this one, I very much remember mixing each track individually, like as a track, and there was I didn't set up any presets or anything off the back of it. And I think maybe also that's partly because we did it all in over quite a long period of time in some different studios, some of it at my house and various things. But so I definitely remember mixing each one individually. And I have a feeling on this one, Al, I remember really wanting this one to be properly bassy, just like a real smack in the face of bass.
I think you achieved that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Retrospectively, I always think things aren't as good a few years down the line, but actually I'm really pleased with how that one sounds. I have a feeling there might even be like some extra subs on some bits of your vocal, Al. No, not any extra layers, but I think I might have dropped in like a little sub replicator.
I know you definitely did later in the album with some of the other tracks.
Yeah. So maybe that might have been how I did it.
It's really nice. Thank you for making.
But who knows?
Lost to the sands of time.
I actually remember very little about the arranging process or where do we even get that song from? Like, I don't remember anything about that side of it.
Well, I knew it from a CD that I'd picked up in the States one time, like a Smithsonian collection. And then I think I've got a feeling it came out of that really big book that you and Will have got.
Oh,
maybe. And you came in and said, "Oh, there's this one, Mrs. McGrath or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, I know that. I know a version of that one." And I think we put it together kind of out of those two different places. I think.
I know a couple of. I
know
a couple of other bands that have done versions of it as well. But like, I have memories of putting it together. I have memories of arranging it, but I have less memories of the provenance of it.
Yeah.
And I think I've got a recollection of arranging that in one of the practice rooms at uni, and in the same session having to go at that and the Valentine's Day Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And Valentine's Day Hunt ending up being shelved. Yeah, we had to go at Valentine's Day Hunt a really long time ago, and then they kind of brought it back. But we shelved it for some reason. I don't know whether it didn't work or we didn't have time or whatever, and then kind of brought it out again later on.
For its time. Yeah.
Which I think is the only song that we've ever kind of revisited. I don't think we've done that with any other song. We've either done it or said, actually, this isn't for us, and dropped it.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the first proper step into becoming a slightly more political band as well. That over the rest of this album and the one after starts to come to the fore a little bit more.
It's true. We get progressively more raddy as we get older.
As we grow over, we become more radicalized. Yeah.
Now the next song, I'm doing smooth DJ transition, because we were talking about like the first two tracks are kind of very like full, and even though like the first one started with just one of us, both those songs are mostly all of us in going, we are the Teacups.
They're full arrangements.
Yeah, and this next one, I absolutely love, but it's definitely more down the route of this is Kate's showcase. This is like a solo, and we're backing up in some ways.
I don't even know what it is.
Surprise!
I haven't got a copy of it with me, so I don't know what track.
No, I'm just using Google. I Google it, has the list on Google. So it's Sugar in the Hold.
Already? Crikey.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just because we don't usually put it this early in a set, but it doesn't matter on an album.
No, because you can't sing it too early on, can you?
Many conversations about working out track listing for all three albums and having to think about it very differently to how you do a live set.
Well, I wish I was in Mobile Bay, screwing cotton all the day, but I'm stowing sugar in the hold below, 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 below.
You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like I'm doing a really bad Cher impression.
Stowing sugar in the hold below.
I think that's so mean on yourself. I think this is the track. This track is the track that really made me fall in love with your voice.
Hey, don't speak so harshly on yourself. That is the best Cher impression on the whole album.
Stern to stem, she's mighty fine. She can be.
See, now it sounds more like me, but that opening verse, I just think,
stowing
what am I
sugar
doing?
in the hold below.
Shanty, 59%.
Below, below, stowing sugar in the hold below. Hey ho, below, below, stowing sugar in the hold below. Tell the maid we've got bad news. Can't get no steam from the fire and the flue. The engineer, he did bellow, stowing sugar in the hold below.
The Who's sound great.
I was gonna say, it's such a percussive sound, and obviously it needs to be recorded differently to everything else. I find it really funny how like everything has this beautiful kind of close sound, and then suddenly you get these like huhs that like suddenly you can hear it's in a room. Like, you suddenly hear a room.
Scratching away at his old neck, heave the lubboard lead and let her go, stowing sugar in the hold below. Hey ho, below, below.
What I can't remember, and we'd had quite a lot of conversations about the Hus, actually. I remember we talked about it quite a lot. I can't remember if it's the same Huh all the way through, or if we did actually record separate ones.
Here's my favourite moment of the whole song, by the way, coming up right here.
Stowing sugar in the hold below. Hey ho, below, below. Stowing sugar in the hold below.
The thing is, when I get to do the bits like that, they are so fun to do in the moment. And then when you listen back to them, you go, ah!
No, sounds cool. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
Your delivery on that song, Kate, is just mint. That's
Oh,
excellent.
thank you.
you found. Funnily enough, you're good at finding songs that suit you.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's really good. That really demonstrates also your utterly gorgeous alto voice, because you've got quite a low range alto voice as well, and that really sort of showcases it. It's really lovely.
And it's, one of the things that I've enjoyed most about embarking on a journey where I think of myself as a singer is accepting what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. Because I remember I didn't have sort of much musical education, so the most singing I ever really did was either along to the radio or in sort of school assemblies and stuff. And I always knew I could never sing along at school because everything was in a key where I could sing some bits and then it would just get too high, so I'd drop down and then I'd sing the next bit and then I'd have to hop up again. And when you've got no one saying to you, well, that's okay, it's called a key and it can be changed, and you just oh well, I can't sing then, these are songs and I can't do it, so therefore I can't do it, so it's really nice every now and again to find a song that just fits, just right in the right way. And I can have a go at this. I'm gonna have a go at this.
It's maybe not,
regardless of how it turns out,
It's maybe not fully related to the same issue that you're describing, but I have such a personal bugbear, such a personal chip on my shoulder about the lasting harm that is done to people, usually children, but kind of any age, when they reach a point. Like kids sing all the time, and then when they almost inevitably reach an age where someone tells them you can't sing or you're bad at this. And I've got such personal stakes in this. I feel really strongly about like the harm that is done in that narrative.
It's such a shame.
Everybody should sing.
Definitely.
Agreed.
I was wholeheartedly agreeing on mute then.
Yeah, it's a bit of a spicy take out of nowhere. But, yeah.
Well, with that lovely sentiment, Will, then I think the next track is very fitting, given your talk about it being important to sing, seeing as though you lead it so lovelily.
I will lovely. I can chat about this one a bit more maybe afterwards. But yeah, next track is Oxford City.
In Oxford City lived a lady, and she was beautiful and fair, and she was courted by a sailor, and he did love her as his dear.
Beautifully delivered.
I was just thinking, it's weird to think. I've been singing this song for so many years now. It's weird to think how differently I sing it now. How much it's changed over the time.
Now no longer stay. I'll work for you both late and early.
I really like the fact that we held off doing anything for 2 verses. It's really powerful.
Wife will be. This girl, she loved him, but at a distance. She did not seem to be so fond. He said, my dear, you seem to slight me. I'm sure you love some other man.
Really nice sort of little ornament from Will there. Like, I don't know if anyone
can hear it.
Yeah, it was that subtle.
I was listening to the lovely harmonies from you guys.
Jealous thought came to his mind.
I remember this being one of the first arrangements we also consciously used the bass as a tool, and sort of like kept me out for a very long time until the relevant moment.
I remember this verse that we're just hearing now, where Will starts and then Rosie comes in line and I come in line, being really hard because we deliberately went for these kind of spooky harmonies. When you're all starting together, it's easier somehow, and coming in on that third line in the right place, because you hear these weird harmonies beforehand. I mean, Rosie and I were both like, how do you do it? Well, I'm trying to hum a little thing in my head, but sometimes it doesn't really work. So I just, I remember having that discussion with you about, how we managed to come in right, because it was just really weird.
That glass of wine which now I gave you, that glass of wine did strong poison hide. And if you won't be my true lover, you'll never be.
I think this is one that I think, for me, that
I
can
remember
tell really made
so
that
long
transition
trying to work out
from
a bass part when I came in.
Recording
We spent
you
so
all
long,
together
and then I just
to
sort of think by accident just start singing along with the tune and not lower it.
I want to talk about it a
something
little
like
bit more with one of Kate's in a little while.
And so we spent so
you
long
can really
working on the
hear
bass part, and then we went for the melody.
We recorded this.
This is
I think
something
probably just the two of us.
still really like about this arrangement.
And then adding in each of the
biggest
person's
first examples of
really gives you time to really
making a
focus
song
on
much more about the
what
narrative.
the lead is doing, and then everybody
Very
else
much
kind of fitting into that, and how
telling
their
a
bit of
story
harmony,
with the
how they can take
arrangement as
time
well
on certain
as
notes, and it's not just about the
just the
four of you
words,
in
the
one
lyrics,
place. You can
and
really
things like
kind of craft a start to finish thing out of it. I really like that about it.
The daylight now will soon appear, and into my cold grave I'm going, and it's you, Willie, has called me there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
I remember this. Oh, sorry, Kate. Go on.
No, go ahead. No, after you.
Oh,
After you.
I just remember, like, particularly for like doing this album and arranging songs for this album. I remember my change in thought process behind it as well. I think we touched it a little bit on when we were saying we kind of moved away from the SATB thing, but I started thinking about us more as an instrumental band in some ways, even though we weren't playing instruments, and how, because like my way to approaching arrangements in bands where I'm playing instruments is very different. Well, it was very different, and you're thinking about the chords and the layers and the different things you can bring in and out. And I really started thinking on these arrangements, and even more on the third album, about how do you use each voice as a tool of an instrument that would tell that story. and I think that's very evident. I think we all kind of started thinking about it that way more in this album.
I've always thought of you as a tool, Alex. Sorry, too easy.
I feel like the mood's been ruined now, but I was just
Sorry.
wanting to say before we move on from Oxford City is every time we perform this one live, it's a song that makes me sort of look over at Will and think, wow, you know, like he's in my band. I'm in a band with that guy who just did a really good job of this song. You know, it's just, you always sing it so well, and you never, you know, sometimes some of the ones that I lead, I get really flapped about, and I go, and you know, when we're putting set lists together, unless if I'm having a less than confident day or whatever, I'll go, oh, I don't think I can do that one today. And you are just so not flapped by it at all. And you always make such a lovely job of it, and it's nice.
Very kind of you to say so. I do appreciate it.
I'm going to change the move back the other way again. Is that all right?
Hang on, I have one more nice thing to say about Will just before we move on.
We can whiplash back and forth because I have still more thoughts about this.
No, hang on. I've just got one nice thing to say. That thing when I was drawing attention to the ornaments in the middle of a song, like this is something
that's my favourite folk club moment. It's that folk club sound.
Like whenever I do an ornament,
I can't believe I've not sampled it.
Here it comes, everyone. Here's an ornament. Oh my god, I'm doing it.
In 3, 2, 1.
Whereas Will is just like subtle, just like whoop, there's one, and I'm just like ooh, like every time.
Talking of ooh, this is we're saying about doing it at live gigs. This is the one. And you'll always have this in folk clubs or at a gig. They'll always. This one always brings like a silence afterwards, and then before there's a round of applause, you'll always have one person going.
Or even ooh.
Yeah. It's never a whole room. It's a silence and one person near the back just going. Yeah.
It is deliberate. Like it's. I do have such specific intentions behind this song, and like because it's kind of yet another instance in which, at least in my own internal narrative, I'm kind of speaking to larger societal issues, and like this one, and yeah, again, it's also kind of what you were saying, Pete, earlier, in sort of like it's hints of us becoming more politicized in our own singing. And like, I think it was roughly about the time that we were kind of arranging these ones, and I was looking at some songs that I was singing myself, and kind of even just like looking back at a lot of folk repertoire and thinking how much of it does just have narratives about like violence towards women and all these kinds of things, and it's so ingrained and it's so insidious that we don't even see it anymore, and it's just there. There's songs about, you know, and my wife kept doing things wrong, so I beat her with a stick, and it's a joke. And
it's probably good.
I think it just really started getting to me, and this was
on that point. My favourite one of those folk club
moments
was it was a gig I wasn't doing with you guys. I was doing it with someone else.
Meant to be enjoyable.
It was in Doncaster.
In a strict sense, you're not meant to enjoy listening to it. You can enjoy it in a kind of like that's clever. You're definitely doing something in a way.
And this other more inferior band
this song is designed very intentionally
that I was
make you
working with. They're just on a similar
subject matter that we shouldn't.
The thing is, they're going to watch this and they're going to notice them, and they're really not an inferior band.
Yet again, kind of more. I had a lot more personally behind it than maybe some previous ones.
So they did So they did a similar kind of song that normally elicits that kind of response, except obviously we were in Doncaster, and then there was silence, and someone goes, "Oh, quite good that."
Wait, you work with other people?
How dare you?
Terrible.
On the first foray into guests.
Pete, keep digging. This is fun.
A similar arrangement, you say? Did you give them this arrangement?
I will.
Oh, that's amazing.
you remember that time at Will's recital? He finished one, and before the applause started, somebody just went, "Yes!" It was great. It
That
was
was
absolutely
amazing.
brilliant.
I'd almost forgotten about that. All right, well, with the next one, Alex, you can spend loads of time getting political and talking about how much it means to you. So the next track being "The Labouring Man."
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes,
Ooh, yes.
very
Tell us
true
more
indeed.
about.
Oh, yes.
Tell us more about that in a minute, Pete. This is Labouring Man, and I would say something quick before, in that it's a similar approach to our change of minds that Will just basically went on about. The world just started getting really, really, really annoying. Who knows who knew at that time what was going to come? But there we go. But this one really sort of stuck out to me. But I found the words, and I was really excited about the words, because it was really about standing up for the people who really matter, and it were really getting to a point where the rich and the powerful were just, and they still are really, but it was just really driving me mad. And I found these words in a collection, and it got me so excited. And then I sort of came to the tune, and it was the same 4 horrible bars over and over again, like it was like that horrible. It was a jig. It wasn't quite that tune, but just as
Labouring
well.
Man is sung by the Muppets.
Yeah. It was just horrible, and so I spent ages trying to find the right.
Some would
the
say
right
it still
tune
is
to
Labouring Man sung by the Muppets. But...
Yeah. I thought I was supposed to get praise. That's what Will promised. Shall we get on with it? I don't want to hear anymore. Just play the darn track.
You Englishmen of each degree, a moment listen unto me. To please you all I do intend, with these few lines that I do pen. From day to day you all may see, the poor are frowned on by degree.
I do remember from the start that Pete said, "This is the one you can be a little bit more West Country on." This was my one track I was allowed. So you'll hear it more in this track.
You used up your West Country allowance.
Old England always leads the van, but not without the labouring man. In former days,
I'm not sure I'm a fan of how strict you're making me out to be here, Al.
Used to go neat and clean upon my life, with his children and his wife. And for his labour it was said, a fair day's wages he was paid. But now
I do remember in doing this song, and I'm listening to it now, and I definitely sing it better than better now than I did in this album. And part of that was I had a very long journey. I was a dance musician first, and so that has always been my thing. And you can kind of hear it in my voice here. This is the tune I used for this song, is a dance tune, and I've played for ages. And I now sing it much more like a song, more lyrically, but you can definitely hear that accordion dance rhythm thing in the voice that I just couldn't tear off. And I remember Pete actually trying to work on me with this, trying to make it sound more like a song and less like my accordion. And Pete knows my accordion well. We've worked together quite a while before the Teacup stuff as well, where with the accordion, and he was very right. It sounds so accordion-like.
I always know because you slip into the accordion dance while you're singing when you get.
Now, if wars do
Can
rise
you demonstrate the
again,
accordion
and
dance for us, please,
England
Pete?
being want of men,
Okay.
we'll have to search the country round to find the lads that plough the ground, who harrow the ground.
Never noticed, but you are very correct.
And every danger boldly.
Actually, no, one person has pointed that out to me before. Wonderful chap called Matthew Price, who pointed out and nicknamed me because of that very similar dance move. Nicknamed me the C3PO of folk music.
Old England always leads the van, but not without the labouring man. Now let England do the best she can. She can't do without the labouring man. Old England always leads the van, but not without the labouring man.
Ooh, that's a good last chord.
Yeah, that bass is really good. I always feel like when we do that one live as well, it's one where the audience is really with you they
Totally.
they get what it's going to be about right from the
It's an
beginning if
anthem.
they've not heard it before, and they're just like, yes.
I think that's some of the
really get
reason
it.
behind getting the guests in at the end as well, to give it that kind of like kind of audience participation, sing along kind of anthem, like you say. And there's as well as the guests, I'm pretty sure there's at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 versions of All of You.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's
And I'm
definitely
pretty
more
sure
than
I
one me in
recorded a
there.
bass part for the end part as well.
You did. There's definitely more than one octave of Alex, and I think there's definitely multiples of you guys as well. Along with, we should mention them as well, really, shouldn't we? I had to get the liner notes to remember who.
It's such a memorable moment that we can't remember anyone who was on it.
It's.
But I can. I'm pretty sure I can.
Go on.
Okay, go on then.
Okay, go on.
Give me a test.
Go on.
It was Katrina and Jamie,
Yeah.
Gavin Davenport, I think, John Kirkpatrick, maybe.
Nope.
And
Nope.
I don't think
No.
that's,
No,
I don't think so.
I didn't.
No, I'm mixing that up with the theatre ballads there. And
You're 2 for 3.
Stu Hannah
Yeah.
and someone else.
Two more, is that right?
Cliff and Jade.
Oh yeah,
from
Cliff and
Willow.
Jade.
Ah,
yes,
from the
of course,
Willows. Lovely.
The thing was, when you talked about doing that, I got really excited because I thought, hey, all these people are going to come and visit, and we're going to have a really good
Yeah.
thing. We're going to sing it all together, and it's going to be great. And we
Never met them. Like,
never
Yeah,
even.
hey, Pete,
I mean, we
can
have
we
met
get an
them, but,
update?
like,
yeah.
How's everything progressing with that? Oh, it's been done.
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, I was in the same boat, Kate.
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't even see them either, to be honest. I just sent it to all of them, and they sent it back with their parts.
One memory I do have of that one, though, is Stu Hannah recorded lots and lots and lots of different parts, right? Some of which were more extravagant than others, I seem to remember.
Yeah,
remember.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But-
And also, it's Cliff that's joining you right on the bottom bass notes
Oh,
there.
nice.
Al.
Oh,
He really-
cool.
Nice.
Actually, didn't you? Is it Stu that sings the that like lovely like scale down part?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we've since
there is
Yeah,
an
I think
interesting
it is.
moment
Oh,
off
I've-
on one side.
I've adopted that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we've
It's
since-
now
I've
we've
fully
since-
stolen that now for the live
Totally
version.
nicked it.
Don't tell him that, because you're going to suddenly find that you're getting like a PRS request every time.
PPE nearly said there.
Yeah, PPE request.
Charging me for that 1.5 seconds of arrangement.
Yeah.
All them pennies add up.
So what's next?
So this is one of my favourites on this, probably one of my favourites that we've ever done, actually. And this is one that I remember really distinctly because we'd done quite a lot of really long days. I seem to remember we did some pretty long days on this album, and it got to quite late in the evening. It must have been maybe 7 or 8 in the evening, and we'd tried doing a take of it, and it wasn't going anywhere, and everybody was there. And I think we just sent home Rosie, Will, and Alex, because I think Ali had been staying with Rosie and Will, and I was staying at Kate's because we recorded it up in Newcastle, and then me and Kate just stayed in the studio. I remember this, and ordered pizza, and then we did this song after that, and it must have been between about 9 and midnight that we did this whole first pass at the lead vocal. And I remember we took ages over it, and it was dark, and and I remember just listening to it at the time thinking, this is wicked, this is going to be such a good track on the
That's
album.
a really lovely story. I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Don't tell Pete that I can't remember at all.
I knew you wouldn't, I suspected you wouldn't be able to remember.
You're
I
such
do
a valuable
remember-
company.
I do remember after like one really, really long day, I remember just sort of like all my stress just going, oh, right, we're done today. And going home and drinking a bottle of red wine and playing Only Connect
Yeah.
with Victoria Coren. And we did really well, didn't we? And the more we drank, the better we got at answering.
I'm going to admit, Kate, that was pretty much every day in the studio. We went back to yours, drank a bottle of wine, and played Only Connect.
Well, with no
It was
further
good times. It
ado,
was good times.
I seem to remember going back to yours though, Will and Rosie,
with a
and
bit
playing
further
things
ado.
like was it Crash Bandicoot or something like
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Crash Team Racing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The difference between the half the band.
I was gonna say.
Well, in which case, then, after all that hype, let's have the Drowned Lovers.
As I was a-walking down by the seashore, where the wind whistled high and the waters did roar, where the wind whistled high and the waves raged around, I heard a fair maid make a pitiful sound, crying, "Oh, my love is drowned, my love must I deplore, and I never, no, never shall see my love more. I never a nobler nor truer did see.
I remember doing an arrangement for this one and it coming together extremely quickly. Like, I remember we sung over the chorus maybe 4 or 5 times, and it just came all together.
Yeah, I remember basically it was never supposed to be a Teacup song. It was when we were at the Shanty Festival in the Netherlands, and we just sort of ran out of sea songs, and I went, oh yeah, I know another one. I'll sing it. And kind of by the time I got to the end of it, the first time through, you almost had, I mean, probably did have part kind of worked out, and it just stayed.
And I never, no, never shall see my love more.
That movement down to that is excellent.
The loss of my sailor I deeply deplore. He is gone in the ocean, I'll see him no more. All the shells of the oysters shall be my love's bed, and the fish in the sea shall swim over his head. And now I cry, oh.
So that's one of those moments where I think everybody else probably hated me because we would. So when we did some songs where I spent the time doing the lead with one person, like this one, and part of that process I think was kind of pulling around some of the timing or some of the phrasing and finding those extra little beats that really on something recorded you really feel when you're listening to it. And then you guys obviously all came in to do your parts, and then it was, oh, there's a big pause there that wasn't there before. That word's definitely a lot slower. So and there's just so much time spent over those little 3 words leading into a chorus or something to really get them tied up. That stuff makes me so happy now when I listen to it.
It takes a while, but I think you're totally right. They do pay off. It's like you learn the bends all over again, learn the corners, but it pays off.
For my true love is dead, and now I cry, oh, my love is drowned.
It's that little bass line into that bit there where you hit the bottom drum. So I love that.
And I never, no, never shall see my love more.
That just gave me the entire of that song just gave me tingles. I think it's one of the best pieces of work we've done, and yet some of the most simple, quick. It was so easy to put together. Kate does a stunning job of performing at, and it's just wow, yeah.
It took me quite a long time to be able to listen to that for a number of reasons. Partly because it's quite an exposed thing, and I could just hear so many tiny little things that just, that bit's wrong and this bit's wrong and I don't like this bit, and I don't know if you remember, Pete, when we were in the studio. I think I got to a point where I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I don't know what I couldn't, but I couldn't, because I would never have brought it to the band to say, let's do this one. I didn't feel like it was something I wanted to do. And part of that reason is because before any of this, the only place I used to sing was in my car, because it was the only place I knew no one could hear what I was doing. And I used to sing along to Catherine Roberts and Sean Lakeman doing it. And I just didn't feel that I had done anything with it other than nick it, basically. And I felt uncomfortable about putting it on the album, because like I say, I didn't feel like I'd really done anything other than just
I do remember that.
Take something I loved and imitate it, and I felt really uncomfortable. And there is an extra verse in there. But yeah,
I do remember that, because that was very much part of the process. And I think that was very much part of why the others went in some ways, and why it was just us. And then, because I think those moments allow you to have that singing on your own moment too, because you can be in the live room and I'm kind of lights off in another room, which sounds a lot more voyeuristic than I intended. And just kind of let you sing it. But also, I remember those concerns really vividly, and quite a lot of the time was of those kind of 3 hours or so that we recorded that was spent talking through those concerns, but also through like what people won't hear is that there's probably hundreds and hundreds of takes that make up those verses, and not because like you weren't doing it right or anything along those lines, but just because we definitely spent a long time trying things in different ways and then crafting a take, particularly the verses of that really tells the story of that bit. And I think in doing so you have ended up with something that is really yours.
Totally.
Thank you.
This is something as well that I find particularly valuable about working with you, Pete, because like I think that there's certain days when you come in to record that you're like, yeah, I can do it. I'm right in the in the right mindset, and I can just crack on and do it forever and ever kind of thing. And then there's some days where you're just like, this is terrible. This is meant to be my job. Why am I so bad at this? Blah 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 blah. And like on either of those, like you're really good at just finding the middle way of going, that was not great, you could do it better, but without making you feel terrible. There's it's you've got such a fine line of just going like, that's good enough, like stop worrying about it, or going, you can do better than that, I've heard you do better than that before.
It wasn't bad, but just I know you've got more in you.
And it's just I think that as well as the technical expertise is
You're
just
a good coach, Pete.
It's very important.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but I feel like that's like 80% of the job. The rest is just pushing buttons, isn't it? The rest, like the amount of times I've spent with everybody I've ever worked with people upset or crying or like needing a hug or any of those things, like that's more of the job than anything else in many ways.
We're a sensitive bunch, musicians,
So we haven't done that much for you, but if you ever need to have a shoulder to cry on,
pay
£1,000 and get a plane ticket and come over after quarantine.
It's a funny old job because I find that I just get into some kind of zone for definite on it. I think it's a very kind of out of body experience. I find I could talk for hours about the psychology of producing, which I'm not going to do here, but I think it's an interesting game.
I think that's really, like you say, it's really important. I mean, a lot of my singing lessons at uni were at least 50% talking about singing, about how I felt about singing, how I felt about the material, how I felt about my voice, how I felt about performance. It's not all about, sing this note, move your throat a bit, this is how you make it better, breathe like this. There's a lot of other stuff underneath.
There's a lot of psychology going into it.
There's a huge amount. And for me, that was as big a problem as, not knowing how to improve the technical aspects of my singing. So, I can.
I should give I should give a shout out to my sister Jen, who is my elder sister, who is a singer and highly trained, sings with BBC Singers and all of those kind of things, who was such an influence on that in me, I think. So when I was studying, when I was at uni doing production, she was came in and did a folk project with me as like my final year. Instead of a dissertation, I would kind of record an album essentially. And I did that with her. And I think the process of just exploring everything that a voice can do, that she was excited about doing and had all the technical knowledge to back up. And that kind of gave me such an experience in doing that with her, and then helping her find ways of doing things that's just become invaluable in going on to work with other singers, I think.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I think that makes a huge difference. Like, we've all worked with you in various ways other than the Teacups since working with you at the Teacups, and I think part of that is because you really do have that approach to your you know, like, I've worked with other people as well, and they're great sound engineers, they're great recording engineers, but you kind of come with this awesome package that is a producer and a recording guru. Which I think is such a really nice combination, because you can often bring in a producer into an album, which is always a nice thing to do. But often you might be bringing someone else in who's not on the techie side quite as much, and being able to have that one person who can communicate both things in a way and understand and translate both those things into the format and into the recording, and just working with you, Pete, is awesome. And you're awesome. Well,
thank you very much. That's I am humbled and appreciate it greatly. And it's a good segue into the next track, I think, which is probably one of the ones that was the first, was the only real one that we did something with in the demoing process and went, here's an idea that was maybe not what you'd been doing originally. Let's go with it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Just before we do, just to ruin the mood completely, can you guys hear Bonnie meowing?
No.
Okay,
No.
Just because she came in while we were all saying nice things about Pete and just started going, meow, and I was just like, oh God.
She will only get louder.
Yeah. Don't ruin the mood.
So, with mood thoroughly ruined, we'll listen to the next track.
Ye mariners all, as you pass by, come in and drink if you are dry. Come spend, my lads, your money brisk, and pop your nose in a jug of this. Ye mariners all, as you pass by, come in and drink if you are dry. Come spend, my lads, your money brisk, and pop your nose in a jug of this.
This is one of my favourite ones that we've ever arranged. I really love this track.
Come in and drink
There's pace to it that I remember as well.
Come spend, my lads, your money brisk, and pop your nose.
Plus, this is Radio 2's only favourite track of the Teacups, probably because it's really short.
You're welcome in for to come sit down. Come in, sit down, think not amiss, and pop your nose in a jug of this. For now I'm bound for the Spanish shore, where deathly cat.
That bit where Alex's bass comes in is like, that's my favourite bit.
Desire, fulfill my bliss, a pretty girl and a jug of this. And when I'm old and can scarcely crawl, when I've an old grey beard and a head that's bald, crown my desire, fulfill my bliss, a pretty girl and a jug of this. And when I'm in my grave and dead, and all my sorrows have passed and fled, transform me then into a fish, and let me swim in a jug of this.
Another nice subtle little Will ornament in that last verse as well.
Come in and drink if you are dry. Come spend, my lads, your money at risk, and pop your nose in a jug of this, in a jug of this, in a jug of this, in a jug of this.
I want to hear, because this is sort of like heavily influenced from Pete's magical mind as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about how you approached this track when the ideas came to you?
Well, actually, I don't think it is from my mind. I think that for me, this track is like the perfect representation of what I love about being a producer, really, which is that when you guys came for that demo day, it was really just a blast of everything that you had at the time. And I remember I think if I remember this correctly, and I remember you saying, we've got an idea for this arrangement, but we haven't done it yet, essentially. And I think it's because you really wanted to try that round, but actually it's bloody hard to actually do it.
5/4, like it's hard to do a round in 5/4.
Yeah, and I think
we were thinking, do we do the round after 3 beats, after 2 beats, and we thought,
this is what I was going to say. Like, not to get too technical about it, but with it being in 5/4, we worked out, as you said, Kate, that like we could split it either at 3 or at 5, and we couldn't quite work out which one to do, so we did both.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was, and that's what that's why I say it wasn't really my influence. It was that's why it was just the chance of being an enabler. It meant that we could like, right, well, we're in my living room, we've got a mic up. Why don't you just sing a line, right? And then that's enough. And then why don't you sing a line? And let's just see, and let's just try it. Let's try a few different things out. And I remember we like grew it like that essentially.
But I don't think without your involvement in this, I don't think it would have happened, because we definitely got to a point where we're like, we've got an idea, we've hit a wall, we have no idea where to take this. We've been really excited about it for a while now, and we still haven't done anything with it. We've just kind of been in the dressing room singing the rounds a few times and going, "Yay, are we awesome?" And that's about it.
You get to a point when you're in it and you're trying to do it with 4 people, where you're all, you've had 3 or 4 ideas, and you're all trying to do the right thing, and you end up screwing it up, and then you go, hang on, wait a minute, what was I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? What are you doing? But I thought he was doing that bit. So if he's doing that bit, which bit are you doing? Well, then what am I doing? And when you've got the technology to sort of, record a little bit and sing along to it and try it again if it doesn't, you can do that, and you can try out all this stuff without getting utterly confused.
And I think maybe bringing in the little body percussion thing kind of helped hold it all together a little bit.
I always felt really bad calling it body percussion though, because like it's some clapping and stuff, and then you go and see someone like Alice Jones do body percussion, and you're like, oh right, yeah.
We did it. I think it came off the back of those Cups songs were really popular at the time. Do you remember when there's like Glee thing, and there's a lot of those videos going around of the microphones? Pitch Perfect, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So that was really big, wasn't it? I think that's kind of where it came from.
I remember as well, around that time, I'd been listening to a lot of Coop Boys and Simpson, and specifically the track Cool of the Day, which has got this kind of sort of step thing going on. So I remember that probably was also a part of the influence in my mind, at least. I don't know about anyone else, but...
I have a feeling as well that it's all Will. I'm pretty sure that we did it.
This is a story that I was going to tell. It's a nice memory
go on.
Well, I remember we'd been talking about it and still trying to like plan it and work out how it was going to go, and it was kind of like the ideas were mostly there, but they just weren't quite gears weren't quite intermeshing, and just like it was like 80% there. And like I think the 3 of you guys went to go sort out some food or something like that, nip to the shops. And while it was just Pete and me left, I don't know if it came about in a bit of a sort of a let's just try and get this done now kind of way, but just like it was like, okay, let's just let's just put some stuff together and just like just sort of laid it all up. And but yeah, I remember that like it's such a weirdly niche thing, but I just remember working out that we had to change from when we do this live, the kind of almost the bass part, the sort of dum patum is Alex stepping, is Alex stamping, and realizing that wasn't going to work with the thing, so we actually changed it to just like chest kind of like boom boom boom.
Yeah, that's what those are. Yeah.
Well, that's it. It was never stepping originally. It was because the whole body percussion stuff was arranged in the studio with just seeing what sounds would sound good, what would be nice to sound. And I still remember the headache we had when we then did this album launch tour, having to try and recreate this, because this was an arrangement from the studio.
I don't think I've ever seen you do it live.
Have you not?
Really?
It's actually kind of fun. Like,
well, have we got a treat for you, Pete? And a 1 and a 2. And...
My favourite bit in it, Will, is
I do that bit live.
Yeah.
It's very kind of ASMR at this moment.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that you got dry hands.
We did it.
Go on.
We did it in your flat, I think, is where we actually did it in. Yeah.
standing
With,
just there.
Yeah, in between road noise.
I think the hardest bit of recording I've ever done was this one, because my part has to hold a drone, and it's quite low down in my register, and I was just sort of going, and pop your nose in a jug of this, and pop your nose.
Oh
in a
yeah,
jug of-"
actually,
And Pete kept saying, you're singing the tune, and I'm like, I really don't think I am. I'm pretty sure that's all just one note. And we did it 3 or 4 times, and you were going, no, you are. You just keep singing a tune. And I'm like, well, I don't know what
So
tune I'm
familiar,
singing,
yeah.
because I don't know. But that's the only time I've ever not been aware of the thing that I'm doing wrong. Like every other time, we kind of agree on what could be better, or what needs to change, or what didn't go
I
well. But
actually
that
think
time I was just
there's
like,
more than one of you. Now, just hearing you do that then is just like PTSD'd me.
oh, sorry.
into remembering doing that.
Flashbacks. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty sure there's more than one of you in that bit as well. I think maybe we did that part and another part, but I can't quite fully remember it.
But you are right, though. It is so hard. People think, oh, you're singing one note must be so easy. Singing one note for a long time is
really
The
so
hardest thing.
Yeah.
You start to get in a kind of Gregorian chant mode in your head, and it's just like, this is very weird.
Yeah, it's hard enough to do live, but when you're just doing it in the studio by yourself with you going through your headphones and you're just sitting in a dark room in front of a microphone with no one around,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's
This
so...
is really weird.
Yeah.
There's a song in the third album that I'm sure we'll get to when we talk about it, where I have a drone moment, and yeah, and I remember recording it with Pete, and kind of the moment where we realized, or I kind of impressed upon Pete, that it was just like, no, I don't feel any need to do this like real kind of thing. Like let's just copy paste. Like I'm holding one note. I don't need it to sound natural. In fact, I want it to sound unnaturally. Like I want to take a breath at the beginning of the song, and I want to stop singing at like 3 minutes 20 when the song finishes. Like,
And that's what happens.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Now, shall
World's longest breath.
we move on to the next track?
We should, because I was just realising that we've been chatting for ages, and
Yeah,
there's 3
yeah.
songs to go, and I was like, oh, that's right, there's only 3 to go, but there's loads to say about all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So.
And this next one is really cool because we were talking about this in the last album that Kate sort of had our first foray into original writing with Dance to Your Daddy in the first album. And so Labour and Man was kind of a creation, but it was traditional words and a traditional tune, and I mashed them together. But this next one is the Teacups' first foray into original songs, and it's one of the best songs ever, and Kate wrote it, which is awesome.
So very good.
Yeah.
To Antigua, our valiant ships they do sail through dangerous waters and many a gale, till lay in English harbour off Galleon Beach, the furthest west corner of our empire to reach, to serve George our king and protect British trade from the Frenchman's loud cannon and the Spaniard's sharp blade. Now Englishmen all, they have no need to fear for the tropical waters of our empire's frontier. We're off to Antigua, all on the salt sea, though we care not for coffee, nor chocolate, nor tea. We'll drink up our rum, for it renders us numb, and
You
we'll
can
hope
always tell
to
when we
be
really
home
like an
by
arrangement
the
because
end
we all go
of the
completely
year.
silent and just listen to it.
Now our anchor is lowered upon the sea floor, and we live aboard ship, never stepping on shore. The sea is a sewer, for there is no tide, and without any shore leave, where can we hide? A fiery furnace burns tar on the land, and we're trapped in our ship at the captain's command.
I remember thinking while singing this one live, especially in the choruses, my part in the choruses is quite high, and it's hard to sing high and quiet. So this amount of me is perfect in this song. But whenever we sing it live, I'm always way too loud, and I can and I can just hear people in the chorus like joining in, and they're joining in with my part because I'm singing it way too loud, and I'm like, no, it's not the tune. It's not the tune.
I've never noticed.
Plantations, they grow thick with gold. A sea of cane sugar brings fortune untold. And we sailors all do.
This is where some of the
our best
sub
to
Alex comes
survive,
in.
While hundreds and thousands of slaves
love this
they
bit.
do drive. There's a stench on the gun deck, no fresh air.
Just that second and a half is all you need.
Stench on the gun deck.
But the thing is, I have relatives who are old enough that the frequencies of their hearing have started to disappear, and they cannot hear that. Even on really good headphones, they can't hear it. It's really disappointing.
I think there's about 5 or 6 of you just on that line, Alex.
Not for coffee, nor chocolate, nor tea. We'll drink a
And for any plug-in nerds out there, there's one of them of you that I love that's got this Echo Boy infinite reverb on, so it never ends. Like, it'd still be going now if like I have to fade it out at the point to want it to go on. Otherwise, and you can hear it, and it gets more and more and more mental as you listen to it. So if I don't automate that reverb properly, it would just go forever.
legs, deserters, our hands they do shake. And then comes the fever, no man can escape. If your skin it turns yellow, by then it's too late.
If I'm right in thinking, my part and Will's part are quite close in this one. So the melody and where Will is are quite close, and I think that gives that last verse a really sort of ghostly feel.
Wrapped in their hammocks to be buried on shore. It's fever, not fighting, takes sailors away, and leaves many a ghost ship afloat in the bay. We're off to Antigua, all on the salt sea.
Now, I remember on this next little bit was a point Pete said, this needs a little bit of sprinkling of Teacups magic, and the transition between the two choruses is what we came up with. I remember this.
To be home by the end of the year. We're off to Antigua, all on the salt
Instigated
sea.
by Pete, the idea I think came from Will, I think.
No chocolate, no tea.
You've got to have some little moments to show.
It reminds me of the sound of Rosie's steel pan.
And we'll hope to be home by the end of the year.
Yeah, because this song originally we did in Kate's final recital, and it was accompanied by me on steel pan and Alex on accordion, in addition to the vocals. But yeah, very similar. I always, just because I remember it ended with a do 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 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I still kind of hear that phantom in my head whenever this song finishes. You know, even though it's not been like that for 7 years at this point. You know, no, 5 years.
Can I just to say about the writing of it? The thing is, it genuinely did come from a documentary. So I sat and watched this documentary online and thought it was absolutely fascinating. And the names of all the places they were talking about were like it was like something like a Treasure Island, you know, English Harbour and Galleon Beach, and like if you were writing a novel, you'd be like, oh, that's a great name, you know. And I thought this can't be right. This is too good to be true. So I sort of scribbled down and watched it again the next day, and just sort of wrote down all the really interesting things that the presenter was saying. And I'd never written a song before, and I just sat there in my pajamas all day and sort of put these verses together, and you know, quite liked them. And then the tune came from there's a jig called Coleraine, which I'm sure Alex at least probably knows. If I don't know if you other guys know it, but it's got this bit in it that goes da 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 da, and that's kind of where the chorus "Drink up our rum for it renders us numb" came from. And there it was, and Sandra Uni helped me with one little bit that I couldn't quite figure out, which was fantastic. And then we recorded it and we did it, and then all of a sudden I had this sudden panic. I thought, I can't remember the documentary well enough to know whether, because I wrote it for the recital, so it ended up on the Teacups album, and I thought, I wonder if I just nicked the script of the documentary. and I couldn't remember. I thought, oh no, what if I've done that and I've just forgotten? So I had to go back and watch it again and just really listen hard to what this guy was saying to see if I just basically plagiarised somebody else's script. And thankfully, there's maybe like 2 or 3 half lines that I don't know.
Do you remember what the documentary is, Kate? Do you think it would?
I can, but I'm not sure I should tell you now. Yeah, it was really good. It was called Nelson's Caribbean Hellhole, and was presented by Sam Willis.
Knowledge.
And I remember
It's a great song.
I tweeted him with the song, and he never replied. So I was
Rude.
Well,
it's fine.
we'll have to tweet him
I'm
again.
quite glad he didn't. Now I'm scared that I might have nicked it. So
We'll have to tweet him again when this comes out.
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure he'll watch it. Yeah.
This is another praise Kate moment, but like that is just like the most perfect piece of songwriting, and it's also the most perfectly Kate piece of songwriting because you're such a history nerd, and it's got like this perfect. It sounds like a folk song. It's got the whole characteristics of a folk song. It's got a rollicking chorus, but it's also rollicking.
It's also got a middle eight, which is like they don't come up in folk songs.
But it's also not only do the words flow, and it's got this brilliant flow to how he sing it. Like it feels so nice to sing. It's just stuffed full of information and stuff that is not made up. It's true. It's fact. It's
accurate. Yeah.
And that's you know, over the lockdown period particularly, and for a little while before that, I really kind of lost my mojo for sort of singing this stuff. Really, not the Teacup stuff, but kind of looking for new stuff. And what I've realised recently is that because you're not going out and you're not learning things about the songs, you know, I'm not very good at just taking a song as it is. I like to know, you know, where it is collected, what the history behind it, particularly with my interest in broadsides and stuff, because often they are based on things that were actually going on at the time, and you know that's all quite important to me. So I think one of the things I'm going to try and do as we come out of this lockdown period is get back into that historical side of things, because it's I hadn't realised what a big part of everything that is for me.
Yeah.
Well, we're down to the last 2 tracks of the album, guys.
Very exciting.
And what a good 2 tracks they are.
Oh, yes.
We shall crack straight on and listen to the penultimate track, The Rapper Set.
Good people, pray heed our petition. Your attention we beg and we crave. And if you are inclined for to listen, an abundance
such a small thing, but it always really tickles me that we always do a calling on song at the end of the album / at the end of a gig.
Time, and we trust they will drive out your worries. Of this we are all in one mind. Many tales of the poor and the gentry.
Well, there's that little lovely note of ours coming up.
And love will arise. There are no finer songs in this country. In Scotland and Ireland.
This is another one we spent ages trying to come up with a bass part, and then decided that actually just the octave tune was really nice.
That dances are danced all in fun. And now that you've heard our intention,
and I always think of it as Rosie leading it, but people often think I'm the one who leads it. Yeah.
I love that first stamp.
I had so much fun recording the stamps as well at the coming of that time.
What makes me really happy is that this stepping is a mix of the Newcastle Kingsman Star and Shadow, but also my wife's dancing as well. And like she's not really been on any of my albums. She's a dancer really, and so having to get Alice on an album of mine is just like it's wonderful. After this is over, I want Pete to talk us through how he set up recording this, because it's fascinating.
It's such a joyful sound.
I think maybe I must have been a dance musician in a different life, because this is just like one of singing mouth music is like some of my favorite type of singing to do. It's just so satisfying and so kind of joyful. It's just great. Amazing little woo at the end from Will there as well.
I really, really love it. It's fantastic. The near the end of that, not quite going into the ending, but the line that I sing is really kind of just like a harmony going alongside the tune, and it's very much like, I remember at the time it was very much me like channeling Alex, me thinking how would Alex like
what would Alex do
this? Yeah, how would Alex accompany this as like a dance musician? It's Alex doing the bass, me being Alex, Rosie being herself.
And don't you have a great bit in it somewhere, Al, where you're basically just going do, do, do?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me
I
giggle
think
every time we perform it. It's funny.
Yeah.
Between me and Alex, I don't know how Alex feels about it, but the way I've always thought about it is that, you know, we sing along up to a certain point, and then we both get a bit tired, and we go, oh, we'll just go, oh, because it's, you know, I'm getting a bit knackered now. But actually, when you get to a point where you're tired, you know, some of the times we performed it live, it's been under really hot lights, and Rosie, you've felt faint and stuff, obviously, because the breathing is really tough. There have been times where we've got to the point in where I have to go, oh, or whatever that is, and I can't hold that note. I can feel my voice going, oh, you know, because I'm just so hot and you're running out of breath, and it just becomes really hard to maintain that note.
Totally.
I mentioned it briefly in the last listen along, but that is the song I refer to in the for the most part. When we get tired live, we'll very slowly drift downward in terms of key. And this one, for on the least helpful song we could be doing it in, we drift up, we go sharp in this one. And my last note is about as high as I can physically manage. So when we go sharp,
At the end, you're like,
really feel it. Finishing the song and just being like, yep. Went sharp by like a tone and a half. Thanks, guys. Yep, it's top work.
Well, listening back to that track particularly, it's really because we do this still is one of regularly in our sets. Like there's a lot of songs we don't sing so much anymore, but that one is kind of a staple and one of the more requested ones, and so we do it often. Now often as a encore because we can't physically do an encore if people want an encore after singing our last one.
After that, yeah.
But listening back to the album, I've forgotten how much more like the rapper sounds add to it, and that's kind of like there's a whole other creative process to it, which is really cool with like the coming up with the stepping, and there's the recording the stepping, and there's the sound of the swords in there. There's all these creative elements that I couldn't imagine putting together that I'm guessing is Pete's partly Pete's kind of like producer mind coming to work a little bit there. And I know they had some, I think Andy Stevenson did a reasonable amount of coming up with some nice steps that go with it as well. But
the John teeth at one point in there.
Yeah. What was it like, Pete, for you as a recording engineer to then have to go and record close-up rapper sounds? What was that like?
Well, it was very much just working out whatever we could do to make it happen, really, I think. I don't think there was any kind of real, like, this is a really good way of doing it. It was just because there's so many things come into play with stuff like that, don't they? There was the specific time I was in Newcastle to do it. There was being able to go and use the Cumberland in Newcastle where we recorded it. There was the guys in the Kingsman and Star and Shadow being around to do it. And then, so you're really just left with those things, aren't you? And then coping with whatever the scenario is. What I can't remember about it is, and maybe you can, is did we record the stepping and then did you guys sing to that, or did they step to the tune already being down? Because I have a feeling they stepped to the tune.
I have a feeling that they stepped to maybe just me.
I think it was a guide track.
Like, I think I was the guide track. and they
Yeah,
just
or
that.
a click track
And
or
it was
something.
just
or something.
It was either just Andy. No, it was
Andy had the headphones on, didn't he?
Yeah,
And he
I
had his
remember
hand
that
up.
side of it.
Yeah, he had his hand up, and
Yeah.
he was kind of guiding people with his hand.
Yeah.
To
It
the
wasn't
beat, I
just
think.
him though. So what he did was because this is what I mean about you just do with what you can. So I think now you say that, I think what we did was we recorded Rosie's tune all the way through to a click as a guide, and then I think we took a bunch of mics and stuff to the Cumberland, but we only were able to send one lot of headphones back.
Yeah.
But we didn't record lots of people separately. We wanted to record them all at the same time, step in. So I'm pretty sure then Andy had the headphones on,
Yeah.
and everyone stood in a circle,
Yeah.
and we kind of mic'd that in various ways, and then Andy kind of kept the time essentially because he was the only one that could hear it. And then was it Becky?
Yes, it was.
Giving
Yeah, Becky was there.
He was giving hand symbols as to what was coming.
I remember this
next.
being a thing. Like
Yeah,
at one point.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what that was. Jonty, because Jonty plays the piano. Jonty's a friend of ours.
This is
and
the
Jonty
musical
also
friend.
the name of a type of
Of a step, yeah.
The,
So
yeah,
this
Jonty
is the
step.
piano.
So Jonty plays piano. So this means Jonty step.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was
So
it.
they'd moved between those things. So then I think we recorded that, and then some of it did slip a little bit. I think I maybe took some sections and looped them. I think some section, but it's not a consistent tempo all the way through purposely. We do ramp it up a bit as it goes. So I couldn't always just take one bit and do it. And I think there was a couple of bits that we decided to get rid of because of that. And then we recorded separately, everybody essentially doing various moves to get some sword sounds, but without doing any stepping.
And I
So we
remember
didn't-
very
Yeah, because
vividly.
you were holding up a
Yeah.
mic
boom
over
mic.
the top while we were doing like.
I remember very vividly. It was one of the first times I got to dance rapper
Figures.
with my lovely wife Alice. She
That's
was
right.
behind me, and but I remember very vividly, like basically walking around doing different figures, and you listening through your headphones, Pete, until you went, "That's the move that got good sounds. That one. Do that one again. Do that one again." It was really.
And I also remember there being one bit where, we went and did it, and I was thinking, oh, this is cool. I get to do the stepping bit as well. I've done the singing and I'm in the stepping, and feeling quite confident, and I'd been dancing Mappa for like 4 years or something, and really enjoying it and knowing what I was doing, and came out of a lock into a coach and horses and promptly almost fell flat on my ass. Only stayed up because the two, I think it was Ian Stevenson on one sword and Jim Boyle on the other sword, kind of, kept me upright,
To be fair,
and it
Kate,
ended up in the trailer.
I'm pretty sure.
You're right. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that
It
kind
did.
of whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
back again.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was quite near the end of the entire process, and I'm pretty sure there might have been a few drinks involved before we got to
I can't remember.
Cumberland Arms.
I mean,
and no
it was-
drink.
It was after a Kingsman rehearsal, so there will have
Yeah,
been.
possibly.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
was that not the same day that we also recorded the Christmas video? Or was it in the same couple of days? Something around that.
maybe.
It could have been. Can't
Maybe.
It might
remember.
have been in the same chunk of time, maybe.
All I do remember is that when we were on our way to the Cumberland, I'd hired some mics in for those sessions, and I had a mic, like a 2.5 gram mic, and then the case I was carrying in it, the clip came undone and the microphone fell out as we were on the way. I remember that much about it.
Before we move on to the last one, I'd like to point out that I think at pretty much exactly the same time in our last listening party, penultimate track, the cat arrived.
They can sense when we're drawing to a close.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
It's quite funny when we used to record videos a bit more regularly when we were doing like more of regular YouTube upload, we'd always have this thing where we'd get ready, we'd get everything set, and we'd do a clap to sync the video and the audio. And every time we did a clap, we'd just sort of go clap, and then we'd hear one of the cats from like rooms away just kind of going,
We somehow
I don't know
inadvertently
why they
trained
did
them
it,
that
like-
they would respond to everything would go very quiet, and then suddenly there'd be a loud clap. And yeah, they just learned to respond to that
It's
weirdly.
very funny.
Okay, well, so we draw to a close with a very fitting final track of Journey's End.
1, 2.
The fire is out, the sun is down, the parting glass is dry and done, and I must go and leave this town before the rising of the sun. For far's the road and many's the mile before I rest my soul again with girls that weep and girls that smile and all the thoughts and joys of men. For some are
I like that there are little moments
they
where
that
different
cannot
voices come to the fore and
stay,
kind of draw back.
but
You never forget
wander
that all of us are there, if that makes sense.
journey's end can't take a lass to be their bride, nor take a man to be their friend. And when I'm done,
I remember when I was mixing this, finding the right reverb was the thing that I was really struggling with, because I really wanted those little moments where there's like a little break at the end of things, but to feel that kind of churchy thing afterwards, like kind of organ sound.
the songs
It's true. The way we sing this and arrange the harmony sounds very church organ. You're so right.
I didn't keep, and when I'm done my wandering, I'll sit beside the road and weep for all the songs.
I know it's not particularly, but there's a little moment that just went by there that I always feel is my little auto-tune moment, where it sounds a little bit Cher Life After Love to me.
I know that song gets me a lot, like
Yeah.
emotionally, and I know, like we're approaching the launch of our third album, which is also our final album, and at some point we'll be doing, when we're allowed to, we're going to be doing a final tour, and I know for a fact that song, we're going to finish, because it's been that song marked an end of an era for us at university, and I know that's going to mark the end of us as a band. Luckily, not as friends, I hope. But it is going to mark
You didn't get the memo, Al, obviously.
There's still time, Alex. There's still
Bit
time.
awkward.
It's definitely going to take on that new meaning, isn't it? When at the end of our musical journey together, and that song's just going to get me. Even if we don't sing it as our last song, that's still going to sort of stick with me as kind of like, that is the song of an end of an era, and it's just
Definitely.
I don't think there's another song that really does that in any of our albums or repertoire we haven't recorded. Like, just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't
It's,
actually remember too much about the arranging process of it, though. I do seem to
Other than
remember
it
it
being a
coming
lovely
together.
song, yeah.
I do remember it coming together, despite the fact that it's got all these gorgeous crunchy harmonies. It came together really quite easily, as far as I remember. It was kind of one of those natural things, wasn't it?
I think so. I think you brought it. I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you found
Yes, I
it.
did. I think as part of our ensemble listening in third year, we were given a mixtape, effectively. We were given a CD by Catherine Tickell, as in she had put together this kind of, compilation of different songs that she thought would suit our sound, our, in that instance, being Rosie and I in that duo in third year. And that was one of the tracks on it. And yeah, I listened to it, and it already had some nice harmonies, but I remember listening to it and thinking, yeah, we can work with this. We can really push this into something even, better, even, something new. But yeah.
How did Pete? Was there a particular process? Because obviously it's quite close, luscious harmony stuff, but it's also kind of got that poignance at the end of the album. Was there you mentioned somewhat about working on finding the right reverb. Was there any other things that you were consciously aware of, because it was like the final track and also such a poignant song?
I don't think so. I think it's actually one of the earlier ones that we did, and I think it was we did it before we knew it was going to be the final track. But it's one of those funny things recording, because I can quite often hear the mix during the tracking, if you see what I mean. Like, I can imagine what I'm going to be doing in the process at the end. And this is definitely one of those ones where that was really clear. And so, yeah, part of it is about finding the right reverb, but also part of it then in the tracking process becomes like, I need you to leave the space that I can imagine this church reverb hitting. So then it becomes, so you have to kind of start factoring it in at that stage, really. And then there's, I mean, this is probably boring for a lot of people, but there's a lot of, so what happens then is I wanted it to sound like hymnal and like an organ, like say, kind of church-like, which I've got these really lovely Lexicon PCM plugins that do these massive, gorgeous spaces. But the problem with those is you also lose a lot of definition if you drown something in it. So I think there's at least 2 or 3 different reverbs on that mix, and there's like these little short plate reverbs essentially that are there all the way through, and then you sidechain into the bigger one so that when you get those moments at the end of a line, then it really flourishes and then it goes again when it comes in. So there's a lot of toying with that for a song like that, essentially.
It's just done it. It did that song a lot of justice. I really like how you made that sound, and actually the whole album, it was. I think
delicately done.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting and very different experience from doing the first one in so many ways.
Absolutely.
Can I read? So we've obviously this was kind of like the first album we did, which was sort of like more commercially produced, and we actually, you know, even though Pete did a commercial release for us on the first album, this was like the first album we really kind of like we're pushing it hard. So it did mean we're on Amazon, and the world of Amazon reviews is brilliant. And you'll be glad to know we've got a 100% 5-star rating from one reviewer. And nice. I'd like to.
Is it like one of our mums or something?
I don't know who it is. I don't recognise the name, but I'll read you the title of it is my favourite, but I'll read you the thing first. It says, "A brilliant collection of songs, beautifully sung and expertly recorded. Just lovely, especially Journey's End, which is sublime. And 5 stars, but the title is probably perfect."
That's brilliant.
It's such a glowing review, but the probably perfect
probably
is
perfect.
I'm almost a little bit sad now that that the third album already exists, because that's a quote I would want to put on the front.
Probably perfect.
Probably perfect. You know,
Probably
Jane
perfect
Doe.
would have been a great album title.
Yeah.
You know what? It feels, having listened to it all now, and it came at a funny time, quite personally for me. This album, I had quite a lot of personal changes, and it feels just so long ago. It really feels like an absolute lifetime ago, this album, to me.
Yeah.
And listening back to it, it pulls out so many funny little memories of demoing it in my flat in London, and then I moved to Cambridge and we finished bits of it off there, and I mixed it in a funny little room, and it is just there's so many emotions tied up with this album. I really I feel quite attached to it, actually.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's interesting just to look back at it as well, and because I don't think I really noticed this at the time, but like especially how much of it I think was taken from specifically Kate's final recital. Like this, I can see about 4 tracks, because it was an amazing final recital, you know. Like I think that the choices you made for the songs were just so good that like I think about 4 of them, because Sugar in the Hold, certainly, Drowned Lovers, Antigua and Graveyard. Maybe it's 3. I might just be making that up. Yeah, I think 3. But it's just really interesting to kind of have that memory also associated with it. It's really nice.
Yeah, but I think if you open that out, you know, there was Oxford City from Will's and Labouring Man from Alex's. And,
Journey's End.
You know,
I think Journey's End is mine.
Yours.
Yeah.
So it. I know at
it
the end, I think
us all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the sleeve notes when we wrote something in Journey's End about closing of a chapter or something like that, and looking back on it, you're right. It is, it really reflects what we were doing right at the end of that journey. So yeah,
Totally.
Yeah, you're right. We chose this song partly because it's beautiful, but partly to symbolise the closing of an important chapter of our lives, individually and collectively, and the beginning of a new one.
Well said.
I just felt, that little throat feeling you have when you get emotional, like.
Yeah.
I think I just have to, as we kind of finish up, I think I just have to give a shout out to Katie Coop, who did the design for this, and to Mark Brimacombe as well, who took the photos. I'm just looking at it now, and actually, just as an entire product, I'm really proud of this whole thing. I think it looks great. We have to give particular shout out to the cartoon.
I love them so much.
This is what made me feel like we
so
finally
excited.
made it. Yeah, we're finally professional because we have cartoons of ourselves.
Absolutely nailed. But then what a great photo that is as well, and what a great photo that is in the middle. Absolutely love that one. The whole thing is just. I'm really proud of it as an entire thing, and I think I'd forgotten that before going through this again.
Pretty looking album.
It's really nice to revisit, actually, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't listen to any that I've made really that often. So because it feels a bit, I don't know,
self-serving.
Yeah, or something. So this has actually been really nice just to kind of look back on it and go, oh yeah, we made that thing. Good job, us.
I agree. The only time I ever listen back to stuff that I've worked on is for really awful reasons as well. Is I only tend to listen back to it to see if what I'm doing now is better.
I look forward to the verdict next week. When we do the last.
I don't really mean necessarily in the people that I'm working with, but just like I just mean it's in my part in it all.
Yeah, that's the trajectory you want. You want to look back at your previous stuff and be like, I have improved.
You do, but in doing that, you also don't then spend the time like we've done today to say, oh, I really like that. That was a good piece of work. I did. I'm proud of that, or any of those things. I think you lose any of that element of it.
It's interesting though, because that is something I'm really not very good at going, oh, I did something and it's actually quite good. I'm really good at going, well, that bit's wrong and I did that. I wouldn't do that again, and that bit's crap. And so when you've just done it, you can still remember all the little bits that you thought weren't very good, or you could have done better, or didn't really get fixed, or you didn't have time to think of something else. And actually, with that bit of distance, you can listen to it, and you've forgotten at least half of them, and you can hear it again. You go, oh, actually, that's not as bad as I thought it was, kind of thing. I know that sounds really negative, but it's just kind of how my brain works, So it's really nice to listen to it and go, actually, that's
Well, it's been like a long time since you recorded this, right? This is a long time since you recorded this album, and it is true. Like when you give yourself distance, it's distance from when you recorded it. It gives you a whole new listen. So as well, I'm thinking it's going to be really interesting next week when we do the new album, which we recorded a lot more recently, and it'll be interesting to see if we. Personally, at least, whether I can take the same approach to something that's new and we're just releasing to the world. It will be.
I think it's going to be really hard.
I suspect I'm going to be high up with the bleh at all my own parts kind of level,
But I also think actually doing this look through these two albums is actually going to give me I'm not going to listen to it until the next time we do it, because I think it's going to give me a new way to look at it, and maybe this will help us sort of appreciate it more, even though it's more recent.
Totally.
I'm definitely now. We listened to Pete talk about his recording process, and this one it'll be really interesting to sort of listen out for that again. Yeah. I'm
really looking forward to the next one now.
Can't wait.
So I guess all that remains to say really is same as last time. If you're that weirdo that listens to an album talk along without owning the album, then I'll drop a link in the comments below. I had to do that, so I just feel like a real YouTuber.
Yeah. Hit the bell to get for reasons. I don't know what the bell does.
You're a bell.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And we'll see. I don't think we'll see you again this time next week, because I think this time next week, hopefully you'll all be purchasing a ticket to the Folk Weekend Oxford album launch event. So we'll stick a link in for that as well. And then the week after that, we'll do the album listen along, which means you've got a chance to buy the new album, have it and listen to it for a week, and then catch up on all the really interesting stories that go along with that one as well. So yeah, I think that's us good for that. So we'll see you all. We'll see you guys next week for the gig, and then again for the album for the weeks later.
Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Yabba